Bukia Jishian Metoptram Riraling Chian Yundem Padi Sange Shindu Amite Gawargi Rohun Namda Shinla Triparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Shiranga Soghi Shobnam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Yapsuchi Dakiya Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho Shidang Soghi Shobnam La Janchu Bardu Dakmi Gapsuchi Dakiya Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho Chudang Soghi Chobnam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Dakiya Chinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho. So, it's surprising that you got out of the house after it turning below freezing and that you're here. It really is something special to want to do these things. So please commend your mind for actually wanting to do this, and don't let it be normal for the next 2 hours. Really make an effort. What if your mind can have a conception that's extraordinary? What if you could see, you can hear one word, it doesn't have a nature, but because of your attention and intention, it can turn into something that unravels everything else in your world. That's possible. And we know specifically it's possible because of this sutra, because of the thing that the Buddha is describing. And I want to make a distinction again and again. The Buddha is not inventing a new idea that you have to go and fabricate. Oh, I'm going to try and live the world this way because it's a new thing. The Buddha is describing the way that your life actually works and you didn't know. The way that reality actually functions and we didn't know. And by knowing, we can make it function the way we would like it to result, rather than having these mistakes. Like in a movie, take 1, take 2, mistake, take 3, take 4, and we keep doing take after take. What if you could do a perfect take because you understood exactly how to cause what you wanted to? Life does not have to have the things that we take for granted as wounded creatures. It doesn't have to have the pain that we experience. Theoretically, we'll get to engage with that here. And then in practice, we get to try to undo a hurt one by one. And all you need to undo is 1 or 2 in your life. Realize, can you remove jealousy? Can you remove anger? Because if you can remove that whole pain, then it's very likely you can remove all others. That conception is all you need. 1 or 2 of those experiences to go, whoa, I've just operated in the world in a slightly different way and got a result that this is talking about. Now I understand it experientially versus I'm learning a Buddhist text and it's really cool because I'm Buddhist. I don't care. You shouldn't care either. Yeah, and you shouldn't believe me because I'm just saying it, or I got a beard. You shouldn't believe the Buddha because he just said it. You've got to try to see how your mind is doing these things that you call life, and turn it into the life you actually have the potential for. It's infinite, as infinite as your mind, and the beauty is infinite. And we don't have to be stuck in the things that are broken. But you've got to do that from the apparent broken. So let's listen to the bad translation of the sutra, and then I'm going to ask someone to read the right translation of the sutra. We've reached, remember last week, Buddha said, dudes and dudesses, all of you who are trying to reach this great thing, if you really get these concepts, if you try and rewire your mind to understand ultimate reality, you're going to hurt. Yeah, and this you got to think what that means. This purification we called it purification, but it's hurt, right? It's like something hurts. You got to understand what that means. That getting out of a cage that you've been in your entire life would seem hurtful. Coming out of a cave where you've been blind, pitch black, stepping out into the sunshine might be painful. And so I think of it that way. The transition isn't just, oh, bliss. Bliss comes in the sunshine when you accustom yourself to the sunshine. So then the lesson today from you understanding translation makes a huge difference. The translation you're going to hear, I don't know where it came from, but it's not the full or correct translation from the original Sanskrit, but you're going to get the essence of it from her. And then I'll ask you to read the actual literal translation from the Sanskrit. Okay? So let's listen. Here we go. And I put a little taste of making you feel good at the beginning, which is where instead of saying you're going to suffer, now he's going to say you did great. And then the topic is, what should we call this teaching, Buddha? This stuff you're talking about that unravels reality. What should we call this thing? And the main theme I want you to take from today's class is the pun when they say, what should we call this? Or how should we name this sutra? The naming of something, the calling something. There's a key in there to what we're studying. Here we go.
I said to Subhuti, if a virtuous man or woman receives and memorizes even 4 lines of this sutra and expounds them to others, his or her merit will be even greater than this psalm's giver. Furthermore, Subhuti, any plot of land on which the sutra is proclaimed, even if only 1 verse of 4 lines, will be a land where God's men and asuras will come to make offerings, just as they make offerings to a shrine of the Buddha. If the plot of land is regarded as that sacred, how much more so the person who practices and recites this sutra? Subhuti, you should know that this person attains something most rare and profound. Wherever the sutra is kept is a sacred site enshrining the presence of the Buddha or one of the Buddha's great disciples. Naming of the sutra. Subhuti then asked the Buddha, World-honored one, what name should be given to this sutra, and how should we receive and hold its teachings? The Buddha replied, this sutra should be called the Diamond Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, because it has the capacity to cut through illusions and bring us to the shore of liberation. This is how you should receive and hold it. Why? Because that which the Buddha calls wisdom is not wisdom. Subhuti, what does this mean? Does the Tathagata have a teaching to explain? Subhuti replied, World honored one, the Tathagata has no teaching to explain. Subhuti, what do you think? Are there many particles of dust contained in the universe? Subhuti replied, Many, world honored one. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that these particles of dust are not real but are merely called particles of dust. The Tathagata teaches that the universe is not real but is merely called the universe.
Okay, so what did you get out of that before we read the translation? A couple of, just whatever popped into your mind. What'd you get?
To memorize 4 lines at least.
Good, yeah, that was the getting you interested part. After the gong.
Dharma only comes from your karma.
That's what you got? Dharma only comes from your karma. Well, where'd you get that from?
When they talk about, like, what do I name this? Like,
Go on.
And he's like, well, like, how many grains of sand in the river?
Ganges, yeah.
River, yeah. I don't know, he just, like, kind of defers answering it, like.
Okay, so how do we name it? What name do we give this teaching? And then the Buddha said, call it this, but we call it this just like you'd call particles of dust, little tiny particles of the universe. So he's gone to the smallest thing you could ever find in the universe, like particles of dust, like tiny particles. And then he's gone, they're not real like you think they're real. By that time you should know that. By this time you should know that, right? He's saying, when he's saying things are not real, he means what?
Not the way you think they are.
Yeah, not the way you think you're real. Yeah. And then he says, from the tiny particles to the whole universe, like all things, without exception, nothing beyond that. From the tiniest, smallest thing to the biggest thing. The only way they are what they are is they're not what you think they are, but they are what you call them. That's why they are that. And call is like that's the pun. It's label it. And that's what we're talking today about. We're talking about in that line, the Buddha is talking about Madhyamika, the middle way. And we'll go there. And it's to do with Chi Shedrup, which you've done already, this concept upon concept that our minds create to categorize all existing things. If you've been in the meditation teacher training, you've seen that weird Buddhist chart of all things, broken down into changing things, unchanging things, broken down into physical and mental and other, broken down into all things, yeah, into category upon category upon category upon category, that our minds flip onto realities and objects, internal and external. And we're going to talk about staying on this path that understands how reality actually functions for us and not falling off the cliff of either side of this road. Yeah, Madhyamika, we're going to talk about that. But let's look at the real translation so we get clarity on it. Mm-hmm. Would you be kind enough? Mm-hmm.
So Subhuti says, O conqueror, what is the name of this particular presentation of the Dharma? How are we to consider it? Then the conqueror spoke the following to the junior monk Subhuti. Subhuti, this particular presentation of the Dharma is known as the perfection of wisdom, and that is how you should consider it. Why is it so? Because, O Subhuti, that same perfection of wisdom spoken by the ones thus gone is a perfection of wisdom that doesn't even exist. And this is precisely why we can call it the perfection of wisdom.
Do you feel you understand what he's saying? No?
You can feel it and not articulate it.
You can feel it, right? Yeah. It's like we've been hinting, every class he's done this about one thing or another. And at this moment he's going, what are we experiencing this whole teaching as? Yeah.
It's not self-existent, right?
The key here is this wisdom. What should we call this sutra? And he says, perfection of wisdom, right? In Sanskrit, prajna paramita. Okay, we should call this prajna paramita. That's what we should call it. But it's not that. It doesn't even exist
From its own
in the way you think it exists, which is from its own side. Yeah, if this was called the perfection of wisdom from its own side, when I showed it to you, you'd say, oh, look, there's the perfection of wisdom. And it sounds dumb, but we operate this way, or we are sure this is now the perfection of wisdom. Yeah? What the hell happened for your mind to have a conception that this object is the perfection of wisdom, or that this is a mouse? Remember, we did it with the mouse. That this is a computer, that a pen is a pen, that a car running you over is a car running you over. Yeah. So we've done this in the whole sutra. What is it in our consciousness that looks at shapes and colors? Because it don't have a quality of perfection of wisdom projecting onto everyone. Prove it. What's this called? Go out onto the street and say, and people are going to go, oh, perfection of wisdom. Yeah, go to the Port Authority and stand in front of all the people going on to wherever the Port Authority people go. Where do they go? New Jersey. They go. Yeah. What's the Staten Island one? The ferry. Yeah. Go. What's that called? No. I feel like The Castle. Have you all seen The Castle, that Australian movie? No? Okay. It's the wife. The husband goes, what's this called? She's like, oh, it's results. Okay, good. Anyway, I'm having fun. Self-existent fun. If you went to the Port Authority or the Staten Island Ferry Terminal, I'm looking for the name of the terminal. So one of those places where many people gather. That's what I'm trying to go. Yeah. If you go to a place full of people gathering, Penn Station or the other station, Grand Central Station. Yeah, the other station.
Why are we doing this? This is part of this.
It's just no, but it is. I want to get a conception in your mind of hundreds and thousands of minds looking at the same thing, not having the same conception. That's what I'm trying to get you. Yeah, because we're all in a Buddhist room. Okay, we're in Times Square, and you hold this up, and everyone goes, "Oh, they're holding up the perfection of wisdom." That doesn't happen. Yeah, I know you can argue, "Oh, but he's holding up a pen." Yeah, but the mental images that come up when I do that. Yeah, out of everyone. And then you have to include every mind. You have to include the minds that perceive that, which include pigeons. Yeah, lots of pigeons and rats, New York rats, cockroaches and flies. And yeah. And every consciousness that lays their senses upon this, if this had that quality, it must appear in their mind as that quality. Right? And it doesn't. And we know that. And we're like, okay, that's obvious. But it isn't obvious. You operate as if this has a quality, as if the thing that you like, you want to grab because it has niceness in it. And we misunderstand what happens there. And that's what this whole sutra is doing. When you take something that gave you a buzz, because you think it has the nature, you are about to get very disappointed. That glob of honey is covered in razor blades underneath. Because when it finishes, and then that partner hurt you, or pissed you off, or the job stopped working, or whatever, because it's a changing thing, you think it isn't changing. You think it is the source of my happiness. And as soon as you grabbed it and you think, oh, look at all this honey. I found honey. And it's got razor blades. I'm trying to get you to feel it. and then we're like, Stupid boyfriend, you hurt me. Stupid job, you're dumb. Stupid. And you're also an object of honey. Yeah? You're also like, I'm special. And then I'm depressed. So I'm bad and I'm useless and I'm terrible. Yeah? And so because we pin the hope on external things, that hurts you when the external thing isn't what it really is, which is a changing thing. Do you see that? That's what this is saying. It's saying that external thing does not have the nature you thought. It's not real like that. Now, is that a thing or is that not a thing?
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And you've got to be careful here. That's what we're going to talk about today. It is a thing. It's not a boyfriend. It is a boyfriend. But it's not a boyfriend like you think it is. It's a changing boyfriend that must be beautiful and must be ugly, must be alive and must be dead, must be smelling nice and must stink, must, never fart and farts in bed. Yeah, that's the first 10 days of dating. Right? Under the covers, and then holds the covers down. Yeah, so getting too particular. No. And if we were to understand how that thing changes, we would not be hurt. Because we would really know what caused it to change the way it's changing. Not only that, you would know how to make it do what you need it to do. However you found it, perfect, beautiful, stunning boyfriend, or girlfriend, or glob of honey, or gym, or like in placing job, everything you want in there. However you found it, that was one of an infinite possibility that thing could have because it doesn't have a nature. So you connected with that shiny object at the moment it was shining. And you thought it was shining that way from it to you. And this is saying it is not doing that. It is available to shine. It is available to fart. It is available to hurt. It is available to love. But it never came from there. It was always the naming and labeling it that is happening against your own will, forced by what you've put in your mind before. To this, to jobs, to this. And if you could see that, and you could see what is forcing you to experience that shine, you'd know how to go make more shine. Until it's moonshine. That's a joke. And don't make moonshine. And then if you knew exactly what the honey, not the razor blade, the honey is really made of, you would only make honey. You wouldn't make it with razor blades. And so we're going to talk about how things actually exist, because Buddha says they don't exist like you think they exist. Having a nature from their own side, forcing that nature onto anyone. If it did, everyone at Times Square, Grand Central, Penn Station, South Street, Seaport, etc., everyone must have the same. If it's radiating that nature, and things don't do that, that's not reality. You're not living in reality. It sometimes works. Sometimes boyfriends make you happy, sometimes they don't. So, he's been talking about objects, external and internal, and now he's talking about this object. So Buddha's like, this is really cool, I think I'm getting it. I won't go to the South Street Seaport expecting everybody to have the same experience. I think I understand, from the tiniest particle of dust to all under the universe and everything in between, it doesn't have that nature. That nature is coming from me. And how do I create that nature? He's talked about karma, and then he's talked about purifying karma. We can talk more about that later, but we're going to get to, well, what about this conception that I'm actually getting a really awesome understanding of the matrix? What do we call that? And Buddha's like, it's not from the teaching, you idiot. Actually, he's not saying you idiot, because Subhuti is saying, when Buddha's like, it's not Dharma, that's why it's Dharma. That's why we can call it Dharma, because it doesn't have nature of freeing your mind. If it does, where did that come from, freeing your mind? Something in you is forcing you to read these weird scribbles into changing your mind. Something in this, or the English ones, they're just shapes. And your mind is, against your will, creating concepts. Same with my words. They're just sounds. And with the sounds, your mind is quickly naming, labeling concepts, collecting them, and giving you, and even in that conception, you think, honey, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Tiny razor blades. Unless you understand how they really exist. Because are these concepts, these conceptions, are they real? Then you better know what real means. Real means they don't have a nature. There's no words that could ever turn your mind free. But that doesn't mean you can't use words to get your mind free. That's how you get your mind free, because they don't get your mind free.
So why don't you say the word action or the word will?
What do you mean?
Well, because it's not coming from the thing itself, the object.
Yeah. Hold it. Yeah. Hold it and see how your mind is doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the answer was Prajnaparamita. What should we call this thing? And Buddha says, it's not a thing. That's why we can call it a thing. It's not the perfection of wisdom. That's why we can call it the perfection of wisdom. So we want to understand what perfection of wisdom means. Shakyamuni Buddha, is that, you taught this, right? To Chimba. Okay. So there are 4 references to perfection of wisdom. 4 things that are called the perfection of wisdom. And Parul tu Chimba in Tibetan, what does that mean? Parul tu Chimba. I don't know how to write it in Tibetan, but I can say this. Parul tu Chimba. Just listen to the sound. No? Okay. It means to go to the other side. Yeah? To go to the other shore. The one, when they keep saying the one gone thus, gone to the other side, gone beyond what? Go beyond suffering, samsara. Yeah? Gone beyond the razor blade world. Honey on a razor blade world. So there's 4 meanings. One is natural nirvana, or the natural prajnaparamita, natural perfection of wisdom. And that's referring to emptiness itself. The lack of a nature of a thing. This thing does not have perfection of wisdom emanating from it. The lack of that nature is its emptiness. That's all. It's not a big deal, except our minds have a brain fart because it's simple. It's so simple. We miss it. If this did have a nature, if it was radiating out its essence to everyone that had a receptor mind, everyone must experience what it's projecting. Perfection of wisdom. The fact that it's not means it's empty of having that nature. Fair? We're all good? Okay, so that's the first one. Meaning, we're just going to go through 4 meanings of perfection of wisdom and then see which one the Buddha actually meant to answer Subhuti when he said, this is called the perfection of wisdom. So the next Prajnaparamita, it's textual. It's the texts that refer to the greater way, Mahayana. So the perfection of wisdom is the texts on emptiness of the greater way. So and it doesn't just mean the books, it means the words. Yeah. And then there's this thing called the path, Prajnaparamita. That is the wisdom of a bodhisattva that has method and wisdom, which is code for method and wisdom. Yeah, bodhicitta and correct view from the three principal paths. The very first course that we do in the Asian Classics Institute. Yeah, so it's two of the three paths. They're also called the two wings of the bird, of whatever. Yeah. So path, prajna paramita. So we've got natural prajna paramita, which is the natural nature of a thing is that it doesn't have a nature. That's its nature. That's its nature. It doesn't have one. It's emptiness. It lacks whatever the hell you're projecting onto it. Pigeon is projecting onto this poop platter. Yeah, like I can poop here. No, but whatever you call whatever they would conceive of this, or landing plate. However that is conceived in a pigeon's head. And we're like, don't land on my prajna paramita. So we punch the bird. Yeah? And the bird, if it was an eagle or something, is like, no, I have a strong beak and it bites my eye. No, but if you're thinking that, it makes sense if I punch the bird or strangle the bird or whatever, strangle the bird, then after my eye is gone, I strangle the bird. That's how we normally operate, because this is a holy text. How dare an eagle poop on it? Yeah? Because this is a holy text, it's offending me. So I punch the bird bites my eye, I strangle the bird. I win. Yeah? Unless the birds movie comes true and then all the birds come and get, anyway. But it's reasonable to do that if this had a nature of being a certain thing. Because one of us must be wrong. Yeah? If the bird is right and humans are wrong, and this is just the perfect landing plate to poop on, then he should bite me in the eye for trying to stop it from sitting on the sitting thing. Because I got it wrong. And if the bird got it wrong, I should punch it in the head. This is holy text. This can liberate humans. Super bird. Yeah? And those two actions, me hurting the bird, trying to shoo it away, the bird picking at my eye because I'm misunderstanding this object. No, you're misunderstanding this object. No, you're misunderstanding this object. One of us must be wrong in that thinking that this object has either nature. Thinking that makes me want to hurt the stupid bird. And what we don't understand is that in hurting a living thing, I've just recorded hurting living thing in the record of my mind, in the thing that will later come out as the movie of my world, of my reality, because things are empty. They are like blank screens, and we are forever projecting reality onto these blank screens, and we are recording the thing we're projecting in every action we do in our world. So I'm strangling, it's biting, I'm strangling, yeah? I killed a bird, destroyed life. Hector's got a nice collection of I killed a bird because it's stupid. I've got that in my mind. But at the moment, I win. Not only did I kill the bird, I'm happy I killed the bird. Stupid bird. Now the holy text will be very holy. And then I just walk around like with poison inside of me, replicating every 24 hours until it erupts into a projection forced upon me by what I did to the bird a year ago. And now I've forgotten the correlation between the bird, and I think that the taxi running me over is the stupid taxi's fault. But taxis don't kill people. If they did, everybody that went near a taxi must die. The projection of being run over, the projection of my life expiring, is what kills people. That shows up as a taxi running you over. Do you see it? The correlation? I'll do it again later. The fact that we think this has a nature forces us to do things, put razor blades in things that we think we're happy about. Then those things grow and multiply inside of us, and they project onto otherwise empty objects, things that don't have a nature, and they have the nature our minds are giving them. Where did those natures come from? what we did to the bird, to make it simple. Is that okay? Can we do that? Yeah, good. Whew, what's the last one? Resulting prajnaparamita. This is the actual perfection of wisdom. For those of you that want a little distinction, how can there be four things calling the same thing? So one is natural. One perfection of wisdom can refer to the emptiness of things. The other perfection of wisdom is the works on that. The next one is really the state of mind of beings. Yeah, do you remember the last 500? What dies out in the last 500?
The realization.
Buddha's teachings. Yeah, and in which order do they die? First the realizations and then the books, right? So do you see where this is the middle two? Yeah. And then the last one is the resulting prajnaparamita. It's the actual perfection of wisdom in its ultimate form. It's what the Buddha has. He has perfected, a Buddha, he or she has perfected wisdom. And it's got three qualities, and I'll cover it for a snapshot, but we won't spend time on it. The other three, if the bottom one is the actual perfection of wisdom, an actual result, it's like, oh, I now understand reality all the time, not alternating between things. I actually see the emptiness of things and the way things appear. If that's the last one, are the others not perfections? Do you know what I'm asking or not? Are the six perfections perfections?
The last one's ultimate and the other ones are
Yeah.
deceptive. Like they exist deceptive.
That's good. Yeah, you could say that. Exist deceptive.
Are the six perfections?
Are the six perfections perfections if I practice them? Let's say I practice the perfection of giving, generosity.
If you do it with the perfection of wisdom, that's
If I do it with emptiness in mind, they say I'm practicing the perfection of wisdom. But if the last one is the one in the Buddha's mind is the only perfection of wisdom, the real one, what's mine? As a Hector who's not enlightened, trying to give with my understanding of emptiness. I'm actually, according to the text that we covered already like 3 classes ago, I'm actually practicing the perfection of giving. If I give by thinking the emptiness of her, the emptiness of me, and the emptiness of the act, do you remember that, the 3 spheres? Then I'm practicing the perfection of wisdom. But is that really, capital R, perfection of wisdom? According to this, it's a perfectionizer. Good. So it's good enough to call it perfection because it gets you to perfection. Yeah? It's a perfectionizer. Yeah? Good. I like that. Okay, so
Actual perfection.
when
Then what would the actual perfection be?
the Buddha has perfect, or a Buddha has perfected giving. They don't need to try anymore to get a result. They are living in the result. Yeah. So the answer to Subhudi's question is number 2. Yeah. What should we call this teaching or this text? It's this. Yeah. And it sounds like a strange distinction, but if you're doing all the Asian Classics Institute courses, you will appreciate why you want to get really clear about what these texts are actually speaking about. In this case, it's talking about number 2. Yeah, there are other things that are going. Now, just for your photos only, this is what the 3 characteristics are. I don't really want to go into it. I want to go into something else. Yeah, and you don't need to answer it. It's just that if you wanted to know, the last one said it's the state of mind of a Buddha with these 3 characteristics. It's these are the characteristics, the basis, which you can understand what that means, or sort of, if you've studied. So in the words, what should we call this sutra? What should we name it? Is the secret of the middle way, Madhyamika, middle way. And Madhyamika. They say in all the texts that are describing middle way, that it's the middle path between 2 cliffs, 2 abysses, 2 things you fall off of. And the whole metaphor and all the metaphors you'll find about the middle way is staying clear of the edges of this cliff on either side of this path to awakening, this path to enlightenment. And they say that if you fall off a cliff, it's worse than falling off an actual cliff. If you fall off an actual cliff, Mark, I remembered your name, Bruce, or whatever I was going to call you. What was I going to call you? Something? Brian. Brian. Mark, Brian. If you fell off a very high cliff, what would happen to you? You would die, right? And they say it's worse than that. How could something be worse than that?
You have to do it over and over and over and over again. You could be born to learn
Assuming past and future lives, right? Misunderstanding the essence of this sutra, falling off of one of these two cliffs of the middle way that gives you the correct understanding of what should we name this thing? What is its actual nature? How should I work with this? If you don't understand, if you fall off either one of those cliffs, the imprint in your mind that you carry from your misunderstanding is worse than dying this life. Because you will continue to misunderstand where your world comes from. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and next life and the one after and the one after. And this is, I have a particular pet peeve towards myself and therefore towards everyone at the Grand Central Station, that misunderstanding the teachings on emptiness can hurt you more than not knowing them. And so this is one of the extremes, and we'll cover it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, misconceiving is worse than not conceiving.
How do you know if you're misconceiving?
You have to use your logic and your understanding, and you have to apply and test it like gold. You scratch it, you burn it. Buddha said, don't believe me, put it in your mind. Test it against your reality. And all the teachings are about testing it. So, yeah. So, and the implication in the language they use about cliffs is like wasting something precious, i.e. this capacity you've got right now to have a vibrant mind, to have an investigative attitude, to have enough health, to have enough energy, to want to understand what the hell this weird thing is that I appeared in. You won't have time when you're dying. You won't have time when you're distracted with shiny objects. Some miracle in your existence has given you the want to investigate. And you got more than you bargained for, I bet you. If you've come into 3 Jewels and you thought you were coming for a little Buddhist course, you just projected a little bit more than what you bargained for. Sorry. No, seriously. I mean, that's how I felt when I was just turning up to say, oh, that sounds cool. And it's like pulling on a sweater that, you know those cartoons where the sweater and the person spins and the sweater disappears? It was like that. So what do you think the two extremes might be? The states of mind that conceive of reality in a particular way, what do you think they are? What are two things that are so hurtful that...
That emptiness is nothing.
Cool, that emptiness is nothing. That's one. And the other?
that everything is empty anyways, so who cares?
That's that one.
That things come from the thing you're looking for.
Excellent. That's it. You guys got it. So you've heard enough of this sutra to understand. We can go home. Okay. No. Correct. One is the extreme of existence, that things are really the way. This really is a holy book. Bird is stupid. I punch the bird. Yay, I win. Oops, I lost. Yeah. My political views are better than your political views. This gets weird. My music is better than your music. Yeah? You have that conception all the time. My boyfriend's better than your boyfriend. Right? I swipe left, I swipe right. You're nice looking, you're not nice looking. Or whatever the swipes are. Thinking things have those nature is one of the extremes. Yeah? Utah. Utah is like that. No. Sorry. I take it back, Middle America. Yeah. I know, just in case, I just put that out there for the YouTube. So the other one, Jeremy said it and Tala said it. And I want to go back to the Times Square, to the Grand Central, to Penn Station, to the Port Authority, and to South Street Seaport. No, to whatever, where all the people gather. Okay? Out of these two, which one do most everyone have?
Utah.
Yeah, Utah. Yeah? Most everyone on this planet, bugs included, amoeba included, have the belief that things have a nature. That's why we go towards the things we like and run away from the things we don't like, because it's in them. Now, as soon as I tell you they don't have a nature, as soon as we give a teaching on emptiness, it's like our pendulum is always stuck, magnetized in samsara over there. Things have a nature, things really exist. And then someone teaches you emptiness and you're like, shit, things don't exist at all. They don't exist at all. Right? So only educated Buddhists, or those that are interested in the lack of an existence, or let's call them educated Buddhists, miseducated Buddhists, will swing over to the side that things don't exist at all. It doesn't come up for pigeons. It doesn't come up for everyone going to the Port Authority. Oh, this boat must not have a nature. It is floating because of my past karma. It's not. They're not thinking that way. They would never think that way. So then Tsongkhapa, who's like the teacher of the first Dalai Lama, is quoting Master Kamala Shila on the Middle Way, saying, you gotta stay away from both these extremes. The extremes that are already your habit for so many lifetimes that you are just experiencing the way things are. And when I tell you you're not, you're going to say, then I'm not experiencing anything at all. Then anything can be anything. Right? That's our natural response. And Buddha, Tsongkhapa, Nagarjuna, Kamalashila, Dalai Lama, all of them are saying, it's not that either. You got to get your mind in this middle way, this path that weaves between those two extremes. And so we grasp to both extremes in this kind of way.
What happens when your mind is going off the cliff? When you're smart enough not to kill the ego, but in your mind? You'll
get your eye picked out a few times. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So 99.999% of people are in this extreme. Yeah, the extreme that says, if I hurt my partner by cheating on them, like I'm aware I'm going to cheat on someone that I'm with, because I like you all of a sudden, and I've been with them for 7 years, and you're looking at me with honey in your eyes. I can't see the razor blades. The honey's wearing out from Stephen. Oh, now everyone's taking sides on the pendulum. I know, everyone's on Stephen's side. Great. No, but if I understand what I just said, where is the honey wearing out from? Me. Who's experiencing? Do you see where how we try and keep to the middle way? It appears that the honey's drying out, and all I can see is razor blades.
Just gotta stop thinking about Stephen and honey. Can you use it? Stop thinking about Stephen and honey.
It works for me.
I know.
But whatever your Stephen is, replace it with that. And it could be a job, it could be the gym, it could be food, it could be, it's a substitute for everything that attracts you, yeah? Or everything that is just razor blades, yeah? And you want to put more honey on it. So I'm bored now. It's been 7 years. I'm not, by the way. We are having an extremely loving week. Thank you for getting it. Yeah, fair. We are. It's really awesome. But let's say that the honey is wearing out and all I'm seeing is tastes of the razor blade. And then all of a sudden I'm on a train and we make eye contact and I feel the shiny object and there is some honey. Yeah. And under this understanding, where is that shiny object coming from? Only my mind, because it has what nature? It is empty of having that nature. How do I know that? The person next to them don't like them. If that was shining, sorry, I'm calling you an object. If that was shining, if that was honey, everyone around them must be fighting me for them, right? And that's not happening. Some people don't like them, some people like them. But not like me. That's real honey. Wow. So I'm gonna be super creepy on the subway. And little do I know that she likes super creepy. And so we swap numbers and I begin to have an affair or something. Yeah? And I know, whether I convince myself or not, that would hurt my partner. It must. I have that conception as I'm enjoying the honey, as I'm taking honey over here. Because if I were them, I would hurt. But I rationalize and rationalize and rationalize and rationalize and rationalize and rationalize, so I keep taking off the honey. But I can't escape the reality of what I'm actually doing. That's in there. It doesn't matter how much I rationalize. So every millisecond of my action, every time my mind is aware of going, if I text her today, I've got to hide in the toilet because Stephen's coming home. All those conceptions, all those framings, all those namings that are subtext to what I'm actually doing, they have a life. They grow. You can't have cause and effect for everything except your little dirty secrets. They also have cause and effect. They must have a consequence. Everything has a consequence. Every action has a reaction. Especially those, because our awareness is very heightened at that moment. Oh, I'm feeling excited. I'm gonna hide. It's all very strange. And my life is alive again. There's so much honey. Yeah? I'm running away. I don't need that. Yeah? What's going to happen to that honey over time? Razor blade. Yeah? And it's not to depress you. It's just to look at how things actually work. So I've just not only taken some honey, I know I'm not doing something right for that person. Yeah? Now, whether or not they find out and go, oh, thank God I didn't want to have sex all that week anyway. It was really good. Or they go, oh, I'm so hurt. Whatever happens to them is their experience. But what did I just create in me? I've created someone lying to me, someone hiding behind my back, someone pretending to enjoy being around me, someone that acts weird around me and says one thing and means another. All those things amplified. I've just created all those conceptions for all my future relationships until those seeds wear out. And so thinking things have a nature, oh, there's honey over there, leads us to that. Extreme was killing the bird. 99.999% of our existence is that. Coming to a class won't help that unless you try and stay on this middle way that understands that everything you do has a consequence.
So if you thought about it but didn't do it, it's hurting Stephen less, but still a little bit.
We can talk about that towards the end of this, but it's a good question. Can you really hold that one? Because I think that's an important question. You plant seeds, you plant karma through mind speech, and body. 3 doors of expression. That's how your awareness is recording your conceptions. Your intent is in your thoughts, in your words, and in your actions. That's where all those seeds are coming in. So I'm sitting in the train going, oh, I like her, I really like her, she's going to be fantastic. It doesn't matter if I cheat on Stephen. They're all having consequences. And then I say something, bigger consequences. Then I do something, bigger consequences. Yeah? But they all started with the thought, with the mind. And one of the benefits of meditation, one of the purposes of meditation, is to keep your mind single-pointed, shamatha, get clear on what to do, on a virtuous object. And in that case, if you had mind training, meditation, you would redirect that mind. Yeah? So actually, I'm going to answer it now. Because the arising of pretty object with honey, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a great thing. Buddhas are just looking around blissed out, and everyone they look at is giving them a kind of mental orgasm. It's like, oh, everything's so lovely. Wow. They just don't have the... That's not how I have orgasms. but they don't. Tell them I don't know. Stephen's suffering today. So the appearance of something, different to my response to that appearance. Make sense? Nice appearance came from what kind of seed? Nice seed. Shitty appearance, not so good. Right? So I should not do shitty if I don't want shitty. Yeah?
Would staying in a hurtful situation, like with someone knowing they're doing something wrong, result in the same hurt for yourself, willingly staying in that position?
Depends on your motivation. But really good question. I want to get to 9:20 and have at least 10 minutes or more to answer those. Yeah? So the extreme of existence leads us to that, right? The extreme of non-existence, what do you think would lead us to? It's exactly what they said. Well, things don't matter. You're still planting cause and effect for a reality that will arise. There is a reality, there is something, and you're pretending there is nothing there. What reality is there? And then you're in the path. Is there a pretty object there? In my subway?
Yes.
Yeah. Where did pretty object come from?
Yeah.
Me. What kind of me in the past? A good me, a nice me, a pretty one that gave that kind of kindness, loving, beauty out in the world, in what my actions of body, speech, and mind. How do I make sure that me is destroyed? That the goodness in me is destroyed? I consume it with misunderstanding. It has a nature. Honey, honey. I take it and hurt someone in the process. I guarantee that that's ending. I misunderstood the reality of that thing. I'm not on the path. I'm off a cliff. The cliff of self-existence. Now, if I understood its emptiness, better still, if I misunderstood its emptiness, if I heard of emptiness and I'm 0.01% or whatever it is, and I'm now a Buddhist, let's call it, a wake-uppist, the real sense of the word Buddhist, a wake-uppist, this is an illusion of beauty. It could be honey on a razor blade, but because I understand emptiness, it doesn't matter what I do. It's just empty anyway. And then I'm happy to lie to him. Do you see the difference? Yeah? Yeah, I become a sociopath. I become, because I misunderstood, she's not a thing. She doesn't have that nature. So I can do anything at all with her because she doesn't exist. Does she exist? Did I just not do a massive rationalization, spiritual bypassing to say, it doesn't matter. There is no consequence to my actions because I understand emptiness. right? Fully aware, everything I'm doing, saying, and thinking has an effect in my world, but I'm pretending it doesn't. Pretending it doesn't stop the law of karma or the law of cause and effect. Not believing in gravity doesn't make things fall down or rise up or whatever we do with the law of gravity. Not believing in the law of gravity doesn't change the law of gravity. Yeah? So, I don't want to do an analogy, but you get what I'm saying, right? So, falling off the cliff of self-existence, I can cheat on Stephen because all the goodness comes from her. We do that. Or I punch the bird. I don't realize I'm creating a hurt every time I'm hurting something. A hurt that must necessarily come back to me. That's the middle way. Understanding that is the middle way. Not understanding that, I punch things anyway. Hurt, what comes back? Hurt. It's boomerang after boomerang for the Australians. Yeah, this is a shitty boomerang. Blah, 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 blah. They're bigger, they get bigger as they come back. This is a nice boomerang. Blah, 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 razor blade boomerang. Yeah? Nice ones, bad ones. Nice ones, bad ones. So that's 99.99% of us up to the study of the sutra. And then someone tells us emptiness. Or someone teaches us a stupid teaching on emptiness. It means blankness. It means nothing. Emptiness. She doesn't exist. So it doesn't matter. I can do anything. It's still gravity is gravity. Cause and effect is still cause and effect. Your awareness is still recording what you're doing. Doesn't matter if you want to pretend not to call it something. It doesn't matter. We are still under the same laws. So, something I hear a lot in Three Jewels and in other Buddhist centers, because things are just my projection. They're just my projection. We say it in our language. She's not real. She's just my projection. And that's not true. Is she an existing object? Sorry. She is. How does she exist?
Because she's a projection.
Yeah, she exists dependent on my experience, my perception. For a pigeon, dependent on their perception. That's how she exists. How does she exist for herself? Dependent on her own projections. There is an existing thing. There is a taxi that will run you over. But it's not running you over separate to your perceptions of being run over. There's no such taxi that could ever run you over without your karma that forced you to experience being run over. You're on the middle way. If you can hear what I'm saying, you're on the middle way. And it's so easy to fall on either side. It's sort of like this meme. Which I've just explained with Stephen, right? But it's not, you're not the only generation that's done this. All of humanity has done this from time without beginning. Yeah, and I found a record of it here. That's where the meme came from, apparently. Just a little cultural reference. But you see, misunderstanding is placing our hope out there into the shiny object, regardless the object. All the time. We're just doing it all the time. We're freely throwing out, oh, it's going to make me happy. It's going to make me full. It's going to be good. It's going to be... You're screwed.
Is there anything in the teachings about people that perceive others' karma and don't perceive their own karma? Like, oh, that's your karma. This is your karma. You're perceiving that because that's your karma, but don't consider their own karma.
It's still self-existence. I would say that's the self-existence of karma. It's like, oh, I've learned a new word, karma. It's the same as the self-existence of emptiness as nothing. Yeah? Oh, it really is like that. And it's another bypassing because we misunderstand. Because we are so glued to the pendulum side that is that up there? Yeah. We're so glued to the self-existent world that when we learn a new thing, I know, but this is us, and that's a Buddha. That's a Buddha going, look, dumbass. It's not. but my suffering world, my samsara. It's like, no, you can actually change it. Yeah. So I don't know. That's how I imagine. There's this line in the Lamsong Namsum, the three principal parts, towards the end of the 14 verses, the thing that began the entire ACI. And Tenzin, is it? Can you read Tibetan? What's that say?
Yes.
I love that she can do that.
That's cool. Party trick.
I know. Does it say, in addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme emptiness, that of non-existence? Okay, cool. Sorry, I just needed to hear you say Tibetan words. Thank you, because I can't read it. Yeah. So the Buddha is saying you want to prevent both. Sorry, Tsongkhapa is saying in his teaching on the three principal paths, you want to stay away from the edges of the cliff. Mark, did I answer your question, or you just put your hand before?
Well, we can come back.
Okay, great. So he's saying in this text, if you read this text, which is a little yellow book out here, it's stunning. The first course is stunning. And this course, the current course, is sort of adding a bunch of detail on this verse here. It's like, if you have practiced enough the first two principal paths, and then you get to the correct view, the third path, you will see how things appear and the emptiness of that appearance. Understanding how things appear, how karma and emptiness work together, will keep you away from those two extremes. And then, what else do I have here? And basically he's saying the way to prevent the extreme of thinking things are self-existent is to understand, study, and experience the direct perception of dependent origination, which means how things actually are originating. And you have to know that there are at least how many ways that the Buddha described that to people? 3, right? And if you don't get the right one, the one that's most umbrella, at some point your spiritual development will stall. And you'll come to a part of the cliff where you will fall off. If you think, so the summary of how things appear, the ultimate way things appear are what we've been teaching, which is they are dependent on my karmas, dependent on my projection, because they are blank. They don't have a nature, but they are the way they are because my mind is forcing me to experience it that way. Make sense? So if you get to understand and study that, you will then gradually get to the side of that cliff and go, I'll never fall off that, because you've just created a guardrail to say, I understand dependent origination. And when we did the 5 paths, at what point do you get that so viscerally that you can't undo it anymore? Who remembers? Nope.
Direct perception.
No, I love that. Good. No, I'm talking about the direct perception of dependent origination called Supreme Dharma, which is the highest Dharma you could have in samsara. The end of the path of preparation, where you have a direct perception of how your mind, with Shedrup, is labeling, naming existence. When you see that things don't have a nature, you actually have a visceral experience because you've studied it over and over and you understood Shedrup and you try to force your mind to look for it over and over and over. You've contrived thinking about it that way. You've studied, you try to find a nature, you try and see how it is that my mind is projecting, how is it not projecting, where would it be, where would it not. You study enough times, you're planting seeds to understand that. And eventually you're going to understand it. You're going to get the results of your efforts of studying how things are dependent on your projections. And at the highest peak of the path of preparation, you get this visceral, there can't ever be a Sapriya out there separate to the way my mind creates lovely Sapriya. It's impossible. Some people will see shitty Sapriya. Some people will see wisdom supriya. Some people will see normal supriya. But the Hector supriya, that's completely dependent on Hector. Every kindness I ever did turns into her beauty, her kindness, her capacity. Every time I've given anyone wisdom turns into her wisdom for me. Does she have that nature? Can I help trying to see a different nature than the one I'm actually seeing? You can't. You're only seeing what you're seeing. Where did that come from? You. In that sense, she's empty. Does she not exist at all? No, she does exist. How?
Not like I see her.
Not like I see her, but if I understand she's my projections, I'm on the path. I'm in the middle way, I'm Madhyamika. If I think she's got that nature from her own side, then I'm going to try and bribe her and keep her nice and try and convince everybody how nice she is and have conflict and have to kill birds.
So what about anticipation? Like, say that you're going
Let me finish. It's okay.
Try
I know you are. I know. I'm trying to not get sucked into your questions this class, as you can tell, because I want to finish and then I want to give room. Yeah. So understanding how dependent origination happens puts a guardrail on the side of thinking things are self-existent, because you see how they actually are. They're your projection. Fair? So what do you have to study to get that guardrail really solid? Chi Jedra, which is the dependent origination. Yeah, which is the highest view taught by the Buddha, is that things are dependent on your projections. There are other views that he taught that things are dependent on their parts. A phone is a phone because all the parts of a phone are there to call it a phone. Yeah. Or things are dependent on causes and conditions. He also taught that. Those three are the main three things. But the highest one, the one that's most umbrella, the one that actually functions for you, is that things are your projections. That's the highest view. That's Madhyamika Prasangika. There's no self-existence at all in this phone. It's a projection upon otherwise empty thing. You can't call this a phone, if you didn't have the seats to see it as phone. Then, to prevent the extreme of non-existence, I didn't mean to click the mouse, you'd want to understand emptiness. It dispels the misunderstanding that because things are empty, they don't matter. If you truly understood that everything is empty of a nature, everything, every inner feeling, every sensory data that you're processing, 65 of finger snap, every object you perceive through your senses, every thought, every energetic movement, every smell, nothing at all has a nature. Nothing. Everything is dependent on your projection. If you understood that all things are empty, then what you do towards them matters more than you think, way more than you thought. Everything will echo back because things don't have a nature. You will be forced to experience everything you do, say, and think, without exception. Doesn't matter how much you pretend not to care. It's not like you must get the results of absolutely everything your mind is doing. And so to train your mind to do the things you would like to have, there's your anticipation. Forget anticipation. Go around, plant the things you want to experience, because things don't have a nature. You're still going to trip over all the garbage you've planted before. Sorry, I didn't do it. You did it. You were going to have to go through it anyway. Why not go through it as you plant good things that you actually want? And therein lies this beautiful meeting of ethics and spirituality. You don't do ethics because God said be nice. You do ethics because you're doing exactly what you would like your world to turn out like. Not because someone said be nice. Big daddy syndrome. No. If everything you say, think, and do matters because you're recording it at the deepest level of your consciousness, and it must project us into the appearing as if it's a world out there, then everything you do makes a difference. Every choice you make, including your choice, which is, I'm in a bad situation, what do I do? You have to think of its ultimate sense. Like what? It doesn't have a nature. It doesn't have to be a bad situation. But is it a bad situation? It is a bad situation. What's the best thing I can do? Understanding cause and effect, consequence. Sometimes it's I can resist and be kind and have compassion for the poor person who might be hurting me. But I shouldn't give them more room to hurt me, because then they're planting more shitty karmas for themselves. And I'm planting karmas of letting myself be hurt. You don't want to do that. But you also don't want to go to the cliff that says, punch you in the face, you bastard. Right? So there's this middle way. Understand that everything you're stepping into is connected to your consciousness, your projections. And every action you take is connected to your future consciousness, everything that's coming up in your world in the future. So what you do in those very stressful situations matters more than what you do on a day-to-day basis, like the way you get on the train, the way you get off the train. They don't matter as much as meeting the angry boss and doing whatever it takes not to plant more angry boss seeds in the process of hurting the angry boss. Don't hurt them. Avoid them. All the practices are techniques not to plant more bad seeds. Ultimately, the ultimate antidote to anything bad in your world is what? Emptiness is it. Yeah. So there's these 4 lines that I'd love for you to make your mantra for the rest of your life. Spoken by Pabonka Rinpoche, the teacher of the current Dalai Lama, the teacher of the current Dalai Lama. Yep. Pabonka Rinpoche had a student called Trijan Rinpoche. Trijan Rinpoche was the junior tutor of the current Dalai Lama and the teacher of our lineage teacher, Ken Rinpoche. And these famous lines will keep you. He says that those sages that understand these lines, they'll stay away from the 2 extremes. And they are 2 don'ts and 2 do's, or 2, anyway. Nothing exists naturally, but it's not that nothing exists at all. That's a cliff. Everything exists merely by naming or labeling, by convention, but everything exists without existing naturally. That's a cliff. So if you try and think of the meaning behind these words based on what you've learned in this class so far and what more commentary there is there, this is enough to keep you from the 2 extremes. And then Pabonka Rinpoche says, the point of error of the functionalists, which is all the lesser schools of Buddhist thought, lesser in the form of not as big a scope, and those other schools is their failure to distinguish between these 4, the 2 kinds of nothing exists, naturally or at all, and that everything exists only by the way you are forced to name, to label. What should we call this sutra? What should we name this sutra? That's the only sutra that exists. The one you label, Dharma. The one you name gives me wisdom. No other sutra exists. Subhuti, the one you thought had a nature, not true. Not a Dharma at all. That doesn't exist. Fair? The one that doesn't exist at all, that doesn't exist either. The only one that exists is line number 3. And if you keep this and process that, just like whatever you need to do, write it down and think about this in your difficult situation, in your next attractive person on the subway that's giving you googly eyes. The next hope that you're placing on a job opportunity, the next hope you're putting on your next activity that you're going to do. The next time your mind says, oh shit, it's cold, I should have stayed home, Hector's so boring. No, I was thinking about it. I nearly didn't want to come. I walked outside and I'm like, oh. And I'll leave you with this. And then, because, I've been thinking about these things for you. So then I'm like, it's cold. I want to rub up. I would like to be warm. Like I'm noticing the essence. And like, this is bothersome. I have to wear a hat. I'm going to have hat hair. I'm going to have scarf beard. It's shameful. And I thought of my mum, who passed away 2 years ago. And I remember the last couple of weeks in the oncology room in her bed, and all the other people in that room, in those hospitals, right there, right now. They would love to be cold, walking in the cold. One more time, just one more time. I want to feel cold on my face. And it reminded me the importance of not taking anything for granted, even the shitty things that come your way. There is a way for you to stay on the middle way, on the Madhyamika. It's not shitty from its own side. It doesn't have that nature. Your mind is producing shittiness. Investigate it. If nothing else, get excited to investigate it. Go, how? Why? What could I... just that fact of wanting to unravel reality must have a consequence to unravel reality. Yeah? Stay on the middle way. And it's not that it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. My mum would have loved to have walked down New York one more time. So would all these other people in the hospital. And so next time you walk out in this cold and you put the hat on and you're like, I'm going to get hat hair. Enjoy the bastard. Could be the last time. Make it count. This precious thing you have, this human life, this cognition, the capacity for your mind to investigate the thing that is. There's beauty here, even in tripping over razor blades. Yeah? They don't have a nature. It's like that kid with the rope. At some point, you'll get to realize all the hurts can be undone. If you've ever been, and this has been my favorite line in the last couple of months, if you've ever been depressed, if you've ever been really sad, down on yourself, everything sucks, nothing's working. If you've ever been like that, catch that state of mind that would have you believe that's all your life. You're always bad. You're useless. And that last moment was useless. And that thing, when you took that job, that was useless. And that was terrible. And we believe it when we're down. We believe it like, oh my God, all my life is like, it's always like this. I'm always here. And I love catching that state of mind. Because if that state of mind would have me so convinced that everything is garbage, the opposite is true. If you could have a conception where, oh my God, I am free from suffering. Oh my God, I can see the ultimate nature of things. And at that time, it's possible to see everything, including the razor blades, as having delivered you to that moment. And everything is a teaching, all the bad relationships, and it would be an uplifting. It doesn't have a nature. If your state of mind is, if you are very convinced that you could reframe your whole history and call it bad, 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 then it's equally up for reframing your entire history as being great, great, great. And I imagine the state of Buddhahood would be something like that, reaching a moment where you are so free from the thinking things are self-existent that you could conceive of everything being, wow, it brought me here. Everything was useful. There was nothing wasted. I've cleaned everything. It's like the kid thinking he's drowning and then you're not at all. You're good. Get out of the pool. So I invite you to please try and meditate on what it would be like to fall off these things, but think about it. Come back with those 4 lines of the verse. It's not that things don't exist naturally, but it's not that they don't exist at all. They do exist, namely by convention, but they still don't exist naturally. Okay, so think about it that way. You've got to have that in your mind as a nice antidote anytime you get really bad, really sad, really terrible, really bothered, and really happy, really excited, because you want to generate an unstoppable version of that, honey. If you need homeworks, quizzes to appease Zoe. You can download them via the portal on the Three Jewels web page. And the password is Dorje Chupa, which means Diamond Cutter. Thank you very much. And if you need homeworks, if you want to practice a homeworks, the Quizlet is really cool. The password 3J. So I invite you, if you had a millisecond of perfect conception, which I imagine most of you did, had some moment where you heard something that connected to something for you, then give it away to any and everyone that would ever need to be freed from whatever they're stuck in. And as energy for anyone that's on the path to getting close to seeing reality, and send it to them so it pushes them over the edge as you do a dedication prayer. Puki Jushian Metok Drum Rira Lingxian Yinde Gampadi Sangha Shindu Mite Wargi Droghun Namda Shinla Juparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Di Gyokun Sunam Yeshe Tsok Tsok Shin Sunam Yeshe Legend Way Dampa Kuniya Toparsho. Thank you so much for keeping attention on these topics and keeping your mind connected. I really am grateful that you're doing it. It's a beautiful thing. We have one more class next week, which is new content. It's about the emptiness of causality, because we can look at the emptiness of static objects, but we think that moving things, growing things might, and that's a point of difference in some Buddhist schools. Our minds will go there thinking, but things growing naturally, like the emptiness of karma we're going to get to, basically, which is trippy. Yeah, and then that'll be the last content class. And then the week after, which is the week of Thanksgiving, if you're in town, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, that'll be the last class of this. So please come.